What's up, YouTube? Jeff, your Style O.G. And on today's video, we're going to talk about how you can own any room you're in. If you're new to the channel, we release a new video every day at 4 p.m. Eastern, discussing various men's lifestyle topics such as style, grooming, and dating. I invite you to subscribe and join the notification squad and join us. And to my returning friends like Style O.G, salute. Now, the topic for today's video comes courtesy of a question in the comments section from one of the Style O.G family members, Victor Scott. I see you. He asked, Jeff, can you make a video on how you can own the room? Well, ask and ye shall receive, my brother. Now, whether it's a business, career, or personal setting, we all understand the importance of owning the room. But unfortunately, most of us weren't born with the charisma or it genes that automatically gets the room for us. However, I do believe there are some learned techniques that we can use to own the room. So that's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. I got about 10 or so ones that you can use that when you enter the room, you own it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, one of the main reasons why a lot of us don't own the room is that we're uncomfortable and nervous before we even get there. And that's because we skipped the first step, being prepared. To be prepared for the room, there's really only 3 major steps you have to take. 1, do research on the people you're going to encounter in the room. Number 2, know what those people's interests are and what you have to offer. And number 3, have a concrete strategy on how you can meet their needs. Now, for our second step, have a firm but flexible goal for being in the room. In other words, know why you're there. Having a goal gives you a direction and path to follow, and it makes you feel a little more secure. But make sure your goal isn't rigid. You want it to be firm but flexible. You want to have the ability to adapt. However, if it seems like the person you're talking to, you guys can't have a meeting of the minds, can't get any common ground, cut bait and move on. You're not there to waste your time or theirs. Speaking of research, do a little research on the dress code or the general expectations of what everybody else in the room will be wearing. What I typically like to do, I like to know their expectations and then slightly meet them. The person that's a little overdressed catches people's eye, but don't go too far to the extreme. If everyone kind of on a scale of 1 to 10, if dressiness is going to be at a 6, you be at a 7. Give people to wonder why there's just a little bit about you that stands out. And just keep in mind, just like keys open doors, clothes can open doors too. Now we've made it to the room. And that's where step 3 comes in. That being, make an entrance. Now, once again, I have 3 little things to keep in mind to make a great entrance. First step being, pay special attention to having good posture. The person who slouched over looks unapproachable and insecure. You don't want to be that. So stand straight, shoulders back, chest out, chin up, enter that room. Secondly, show confidence. Look people directly in the eye, make direct eye contact, and give them a firm handshake. And thirdly, when introducing yourself, use first and last name. For example, reach out, shake their hand, make that direct eye contact, say, hi, I'm John Doe, nice to meet you. Our next step for owning the room, turn on and turn up your energy level. Being a subdued, too cool for school guy won't work. You won't own a thing. The person with a high energy level, more likely to get noticed, more likely to own the room. However, make sure your energy level isn't too high that you skip our next step. And that's being gauge the temperature of the room and the people in it. How do you do that? Listen, listen, listen. And on top of that, pay attention to nonverbal body language cues. The person whose arms are closed into their phone, don't waste your time with them. They're not trying to own the room. They're too involved in what they're doing, not even paying attention to the room. You don't want to engage with them. Move on to people that seem like they want to be engaged with. Speaking of people being on their phone, brings us to our next step. That's before you even enter the room, put that cell phone in your pocket. Not only do I want you to put it in your pocket, resist any temptation to check it while you're in that room. You want to have what's called present time consciousness. What that means is the room you're in, and more specifically, the person you're talking to, are the most important and only thing that's going on in the world at that time. If you're distracted by your phone, the person's going to think they're not important. How are you going to own a room if you're mentally not even in the room? Now that point leads us into our next tip in owning the room, and that's build a rapport with the people in the room. One of the great ways to do that, mirror the other person's body language. When you reflect what they're doing and the energy they're giving off, they'll feel connected. An easy way for you to own their attention and the room at whole. Now, our next step in owning the room might be the most difficult. That's knowing when to remain silent. Now, it's a little bit of a tricky situation. What you want to do is make kind of a bold statement that requires an answer from the person you're talking to. But then be quiet, say nothing. But the main key is to remain silent a little bit longer than what's generally comfortable. It's going to make it awkward, but you're in control of the situation. The person who'll be more awkward is the person you're talking to. Now, naturally, as human beings, we're bitter people pleasers. After you make that bold statement, they'll want to fill the void by coming up with an answer to the question. They'll be trying to please you. That way you're owning them and their thought process. Step number 9, you can't take charge of the room if you're the complainer and criticizer in charge. Nobody wants to hear that. Instead of being a problem identifier, be a problem solver. And if you can't come up with a solution, how about you and the person you're talking to build a rapport and try to work towards a solution? Your goal here is to come off as understanding and positive. You know how much you hate to hear other people criticize and complain? Trust me, other people don't want to hear that from you. And last but certainly not least, our 10th and final tip on how to own the room: make sure you only speak on things you know about. I didn't say the things you think you know about. I'm talking about things you absolutely have a firm grasp on. When you own the facts and what you're talking about, you're one step closer to owning the room. Okay, so there you have it. My best tips on how you can own the room. Let us know in the comment sections any suggestions you have on the topic. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, hit that like button. It helps the channel to grow. And of course, join the notification squad so you don't miss any of the videos we release every day at 4 p.m. Eastern. And I'll meet you here